over into the 10 o'clock hour. I think it'll hang around through the 11 o'clock hour as well. Nothing going on in San Francisco right now. It's just a longer commute. We've been telling you about this. Heavier traffic all around the Bay Area within the last year or so. It's up 10%. You are backed up into the maze. 23 minutes for the drive in. Checking in on the Richmond-Santa Fe Bridge, a little sluggish leading up. They have one lane closed right there. One fast track lane coned off, but it's just a minor wait. And here's 92. It has finally recovered from the accident in Foster City out near Edgewater. That backed up traffic across the bridge, but it looks good now. You're at 16 minutes from Hayward to San Mateo. Daria, James.
All right, and like so many people, we all know and work with people who are affected by the North Bay fires. Our Mark Dannon hasn't been here because he has been evacuated from his home up in the hills above Sonoma and is watching and wondering when those winds are going to shift. His home is in danger. It has not burned down at this point.
Yeah, he's obviously been very busy these last few days. We haven't heard from him in a while, but luckily he was able to call us this morning with an update on his situation. Let's take a listen.
And we're just watching the winds last night. They didn't materialize as much out of the northeast, which was great, and that's what we were thinking. So we were keeping a close eye on it, and, you know, it's when you decided to walk away, and it's a real difficult decision to make. But obviously, if there was a mandatory evacuation, we would have left. But my friend really wanted to, you know, save his home, and we wanted to help him as long as no one was in real danger. And that was the case last night. And then we're just getting updates from friends over the last 4 days, friends who have lost their homes, friends who barely saved their homes, friends who thought their homes were safe. And then as of yesterday afternoon, we're not safe again. So there's this roller coaster of thinking that, you know, things are getting better and that maybe your house will be fine. And then the wind shift or the fire picks up, or the Nuns fire started to explode yesterday, and then you worry all over again that, you know, that you're going to lose your home once again.
All right, so that was, he's at a friend's house, so that's why he was saying, you know, we're there. He was explaining that they were out in tractors and they had garden hoses out at the friend's house where 4 families are staying with their dogs, you know, their other pets and their kids. And so they're all waiting, and they might be evacuated again.
That's a friend.
Yeah.
Who invited 4 families into his house, and they're all hunkered down and trying to get through this as best they can.
Well, they've seen what's happened to other neighborhoods around from these fires.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've had a lot of communities that have been devastated, burned to the ground en masse. I mean, we're talking about, like, this is Coffee Park, for instance, and we keep going back to this video out of Santa Rosa because it's still, it was the 4th day I've seen this video, and it's still mind-boggling to me that such a big subdivision in an urban area like northern Santa Rosa can just be laid to waste. This giant swath of developed area gone.
And you see the piles of metal that are so high. They're just piled high of twisted and ash and rubble and nothing but a few trees that still stood and chimneys and fireplaces like that. So we'll continue our team coverage in this extended edition here on the KRON 4 Morning News to bring you the very latest on the North Bay firestorms. We'll be back in a few minutes.
For that live report.
Meantime, despite all of the evacuation orders, including new orders today, as always, some people choose to stay behind, saying they want to try and protect their homes.
Yeah, they want to put water on their house and their property. Law enforcement, of course, never encouraging people to do this. KRON 4's Maureen Kelly is live tonight in the Bennett Valley neighborhood in Santa Rosa. Maureen, you talked to a family who decided to stay behind, and what gets me, this Bennett Valley area, it's in the southern part of San Jose, the southeastern end, and so much of the devastation in Santa Rosa Sunday night was far to the north in that city.
That's right, Grant. Now, right now, I'm actually standing in the Coffee Park neighborhood of Santa Rosa. This is a very urban area that was devastated by this fire, extremely so. I mean, this neighborhood was mostly reduced to rubble. Now, earlier today, I was in Bennett Valley, like you said, a rural area southeast of here. Now, that's where, like, you can roll some video, you can see the adobe fire burning in the hills. There's been lots of rugged terrain there, lots of fuel to burn, grass and shrubs. Residents were told to get out there Monday, but not everyone took heed of that warning. I talked to a grape grower who decided because his crops were watered well enough to keep from burning, he sent his family packing, but he decided to stay home, water his property, and and try to save his home. But that fire
Officials
did come.
in Napa County and Solano County this morning, and this is what they've told us. Unfortunately, the death toll has gone up to 24.
Right, and that's all of Northern California and all the fires that are burning. 14 deaths alone are confirmed in just Sonoma County, the sheriff's told us.
And the number of unaccounted, when we started the broadcast this morning, it was right around 285, and now it's jumped considerably. 463 people unaccounted for. Now, don't presume the worst. A lot of these people were part of those that were newly evacuated in the last 12 hours, and in some cases, maybe they just haven't been able to communicate to family and friends that they've made it safely to a shelter.
The worst. I mean, how much worse can it get? Yeah. We've already seen 3,500 homes and businesses go up in flames and burn to the ground, and there are going to be many more added to the ranks of that number. Plus, the acreage is now well over 170,000. If we add the new acreages in that they saw this morning, we're looking at closer to 200,000. Northern California-wide, we're focusing our coverage on the North Bay, Napa, and Sonoma counties especially, and that's where we saw the fire advancing this morning, and where they talked about the fact that they're still just trying to save lives and get a handle on the fire, but the containment is still in the single digits, 2-3% in most of the fires.
I mean, it's at 3%. This is the Atlas fire you're looking at this morning. New flames that Will Tran spotted this morning as he was out and about covering the story for us. 3% containment and still massively large, 43,700 acres in size, and still growing this morning.
And I think the best containment that we saw was in Santa Rosa on the Tubbs fire, and that is the biggest containment by far at 10%, but it has grown to 34,000 acres, that one fire alone.
And here's a live map showing you some of the fires that we've been tracking for you this morning. Let's zoom in on the Tubbs fire. Daria just mentioned that. That's the one impacting not only northern Santa Rosa, but now beginning to burn. It's what they say, a mile away from downtown Calistoga.
Right, which was cleared out.
That's why the entire town's been evacuated.
Right, and by the way, as we look at this map and we talk about Calistoga, don't forget what we heard this morning. The mayor of Calistoga, Tourist Town USA, says, you're not welcome. Everyone should be out of here. And if you did stay with the mandatory evacuation orders, if you defied that and you stayed, you're on your own. We cannot save you.
That was pretty compelling to hear him saying. You could tell he had difficulty saying it, but he had to lay down the law this morning and really encourage people to get out. Let's slide the maps down a bit before we run out of time. Well, actually, we'll, you know what, go to our website.
There's so many different areas, different neighborhoods and different streets that really our website or our mobile app are the best way, because that's why we update it so that you can go over at your leisure and pinpoint where you have friends and family and what you want to see. It's all right there on KRON4.com and our mobile app.
And don't forget, too, there are going to be more updates throughout the day between our broadcast when it ends here in just a few minutes and when our evening newscast begins. I believe they're starting at 4 p.m. tonight. Don't quote me on that, but they may be going on early.
Right.
Any new information that comes out between those two broadcasts, of course, the mobile app would be a great way to get updated on it, because we're going to send out alerts as soon as we get it.
And because we're independent, that's the benefit. We're able to break into programming, and we do. We've been on the air for 7, 8, 9 hours at a time, just in the morning hours, to keep you posted on this. So I think the best thing is to just have Channel 4 on in the background, and that way when there's an alert, you'll know that we'll pop right up in the middle of programming.
And I just got confirmation in my ear from the producers upstairs. Yes, 4 p.m. tonight.
Right.
We're going to start our broadcast early this evening, so stay tuned for that.
All right, so there's the websites to keep in mind, KRON4, Facebook, and Twitter. And also, we're going to try and queue up some of the video just to leave you with the sights and sounds coming to us from the North Bay as we continue to keep you covered about the North Bay firestorms. And we'll be back here tomorrow morning starting at 4 a.m.
About 4 o'clock this afternoon, about a half dozen Sonoma County Sheriff's vehicles started driving around this area all north of Sonoma Square, telling people it was time to evacuate, giving them the idea that the fire from Boyas Hot Spring in one direction and also coming from the eastern side could be arriving here in downtown Sonoma in about 2 hours. That would be about now. At this point, we haven't seen much in the way of fire, but people took heed. They decided to take that time to pack up their animals and pack up their clothes and get on the road. We talked to some of them.
We were prepared the other day to get some stuff out, so we kind of had some things in order. But then when they came today, we decided we better get a few more things.
What's important?
Just, you know, pictures and documents and papers and stuff from the house, and then just getting everything.
Did you think it would come to this? Here?
No, not here. I thought we were okay. We really thought that the hills were going to protect us, but these winds, I know they can come up at any time.
Sad? Stressed? What?
Stressed, yeah. very stressed.
Now, in addition to the vehicles going door to door, we also saw police officers from various cities throughout the Bay Area also going from door to door, knocking on people's doors, everybody taking a certain street, telling them about this voluntary evacuation, in fact, a recommendation to get out of town. And then we looked up in the hillside and we saw a bulldozer cutting a dozer line. The idea being that if that fire comes over the hill into the front of these houses, they want to make sure that there is a line in place so it can be stopped. So basically, in a nutshell, that's where we stand right now. Downtown Sonoma, at least north of the square, the recommendation is for people to evacuate. Many of them have packed up their cars. Many of them have left. As you see, if you're heading like towards Novato or some other areas, it's going to take you some extra time to get there because there are a lot of people on the road. There's also a lot of ash falling from the sky right now, a lot of thick smoke in the air. We'll see what happens in the next few hours. Live in downtown Sonoma, Dan Kerman, Cron 4 News.
Thought they'd already harvested, but there were a couple of grapes that were still there, so you could see that some of the grapes had dried out, and in some cases there was just grapes that looked pretty normal, but the grape leaves weren't burnt, which I noticed.
Stanley, that's what I was going to ask you. You know, as we all travel up in the North Bay, going through Napa and Sonoma, we love to see the stretches of land with all the vineyards. You checked some of the tasting rooms. Did you see many vineyards where there had been widespread destruction?
Well, like I said, I looked at some of the vineyards, and the actual grape leaves weren't burnt. And many of the grapes that I looked at were actually removed already. They'd already been harvested. So it looks like that, you know, the smoke came through, and there were some areas that were still smoking. But overall, I mean, you can see where the fire just blew through and burned everything up completely. In one area, there was a wooden shed that was untouched. But a few feet away from that, everything was burnt. And the weirdest part was looking at all the different casks, the wine barrels that were burnt, but you can smell the strong odor of wine.
Obviously, and what's left is just a brick chimney, and everything is just charred. But what's interesting about this is that you look across the street, those houses are saved. I talked to one man over there who woke up to the evacuation and started taking video of just the flames he saw across the street. He thought it could, you know, get to his home as well, but he's fortunate he has a house to go back to, but so many others in this neighborhood don't. And we also visited a mobile home park earlier. A man there, who's a security guard, said that he woke up to flames and he wanted to stop the fire from getting to his mobile home and his neighbor's mobile home, so he grabbed a fire hose, and he says he saved about 40 mobile homes. Take a listen.
I put $9,000 into my motorcycle last month. I'm not losing my bike and my home if I can stop it. I mean, I don't know. Hero? No. Those three guys that stood down there for 3 hours and went to fight another fire, and all of them, those are the heroes. Those guys in yellow suits, those are the heroes.
Yeah, so police say that he did save about 43 mobile homes, and there were about 140 or more than that mobile homes in that mobile home park. So again, just a very devastating scene out here at Coffee Park. We've seen some residents come back here to survey the damage for the first time, seeing they have nothing left. Very emotional day for everyone in the neighborhood. For now, we're live in Santa Rosa. Matt Mendis, we'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Matt.
Out of this Walmart, they tell me they have no idea whether or not their homes are still standing.
You're here at Walmart getting supplies.
Just trying to make it through a very strange and stressful week. We're completely out of routine. My kids aren't in school. I'm not at work. I work at the County Office of Education, which is also threatened by the Atlas fire at this time. So just trying to keep some sense of normal routine for my kids and make it through to the next steps.
You're from the fire zone?
Yes, we live in Napa on the eastern side, southeastern side.
Tell me about the experience for you and your family.
My children and I live just down the road on Silverado Trail in Sosville, and we ended up evacuating later that Monday morning. We've been here at our friend's house since, just waiting for news about how the fire is spreading as the wind shifts. We're not quite sure what's going to happen next, so we're still under evacuation orders.
Do you have any sense of the status of your home?
Right now, we're looking at the maps on countyofnapa.org to see the updates.
Not knowing whether her home is still standing is unfortunately more common than not at this point for evacuees, with these North Bay wildfires still raging out of control.
That's right. Right now, I'm in the Coffee Park area of Santa Rosa. This area was just nearly completely demolished by this fire. To see so much devastation in an urban area is really shocking to see. But 9 miles southeast of this, the Adobe fire is burning in the Bennett Valley. That area was evacuated Monday morning. I went to beyond the barricades to find out why. Here's what's left of a Bennett Valley home near Garden Ranch Road. It's now just a heap of ash, metal, charred wood, and scorched appliances. The family who owns this home is on the East Coast. They asked their neighbors to check in. Those neighbors had to break the bad news that the home they remodeled themselves is no more.
And they had just spent so much effort. Paul was like an amateur builder and had spent the last year improving the house, and they did so much work. We were over there to dinner several times, and it's just so sad. And we went over there yesterday, and everything is gone.
Everything includes their cars, which are now metal shells. Even the batteries melted, leaving silver drips down the driveway. That family plans to stay on the East Coast until their power is restored. Now, the neighbor on Bennett Valley Road is also without power. He's concerned that areas like back out here at Coffee Park are going to be getting first priority when it comes to getting their infrastructure restored, because they're much more densely packed. So his concern is that rural customers like himself will be without power for weeks, if not months. Back to you in the studio.
Well, guys, it is a ghost town in Calistoga right now. Take a look behind me. That 76 gas station has been closed for a little while, although you see first responders pumping gas. This gas station is open, and again, first responders fueling up. And I want you guys to follow me over here at this intersection. You can see authorities have blocked off specific roads. Right now, we're standing at Lincoln and the 29. First responders allowed to go northbound to help evacuate people. The public able to come southbound to the next town over, which is St. Helena. Now, we also spoke to a woman that was headed to San Jose. Her station wagon packed full with her dogs in the back seat. She's headed to safety as a precaution. Now, take a look at video. We watched as people filled up, doing the same thing, preparing for the worst. One couple using gas for their generator because they haven't had power for 3 days. They are trying to wait it out. We saw U-Hauls and mobile homes getting out of town. For many here, it was hurry up and wait, but evacuation orders continue.
Well, this is unusual. I mean, this is the worst I've seen it ever. So it's just, it's eerie. It's never been seen before.
You know, we're just going to stay up there and wait till they totally force us to evacuate. We've got stuff loaded up in another car at home. Go back and fill up the flatbed here and hook up a trailer and put some more stuff in it that way.
That was just hours ago. Right now, you're looking at that smoky haze, actually starting to feel a little bit of ash fall down as a result of the Tubbs fire that started on Sunday night. And just about an hour ago, we saw CHP racing down the street, going to homes, making sure people evacuate. And as you can see, more first responders coming here and preparing for the night. We are reporting live in Calistoga. Justin Lum, KRON 4 News.
Thank you, Justin. Now we have more on a story that we first brought you last night. The family of Linda Tunis has now confirmed she has died. Her remains were found at the Journey's End mobile home park early this morning. Linda's daughter, Jessica, had reported her missing yesterday. A search followed up that. Jessica told KRON 4 that her mom called her on early Sunday morning, telling her daughter that the home was on fire and that she was trapped inside. Jessica says that's when the phone line suddenly went dead.
And other family members searching for a man who also lived at the Journey's End mobile home park that is missing this evening.
KRON 4's Rob Fladville joins us live from Santa Rosa with more on that story. Rob?
That's right, Steve and Pam. So far, just the one body has been found in the ruins of what's left here of the Journey's End Mobile Home Park. Although, take a look at this. You can see now that the police here have sealed off the entrance. At least one other resident that we know of is missing. His name is Diego Pacheco. I spoke with his family this afternoon. Let's take a look at that right now.
Well, we're really concerned, you know, from watching all these people that the number of fatalities are going up. So.
Santa Rosa resident Fabronio Cuevas and his family are desperately searching for his uncle, Diego Pacheco, who is among the missing.
We went to several places up north, all the way to Cloverdale, and we went to Sebastopol, some other places, centers, some shelters, and they just can't give us any information on his whereabouts.
The 78-year-old Pacheco lives here in the Journey's End Mobile Home Park, all but destroyed as residents ran for their lives. Many were evacuated.
The fire was so quickly, it just came on top of them, and basically they had like minutes to get out. And so I guess everybody kind of scattered. We watched on TV that were filling up like buses full of people and taking them, who knows.
Cuevas says his uncle does not speak English, has no cell phone, and no other family in the area. Yet somehow they are confident that he got out somehow, perhaps escaping on a bicycle that he loved to ride.
He's probably somewhere, I don't know, with his roommate. We're hoping for he's with his roommate, but
you're pretty worried.
We are worried. So many days. It's been what, like 3 or 4 days already, and no call, no heard of. So.
And we've been like searching for him and we've been calling people like hotels if they know anything and have seen him, like around the hotel, but nothing. We haven't seen anything about him.
And the search goes on. Pacheco's family says that he also had a brand new roommate. Don't have any confirmation for him either, and they have had no contact whatsoever. So they are desperately asking anyone who may have seen or knows the whereabouts of Diego Pacheco to please get in touch with authorities. Live in Santa Rosa, Rob Flatabo, KRON 4 News.
Rob, thank you for that. And we have also learned that a wheelchair-bound woman who was missing after her home was destroyed in the Tubbs fire has been found dead. That is according to members of her family. A fire inspector told the family members that Christina Hansen was in the home but did not make it out. Hansen's father is in the hospital tonight with third-degree burns.
So you're looking at what the images of the Golden Gate Bridge from the Sutro Tower, that's what people are experiencing all around the bay, and the smoke is all coming.
Now, I caught up with some of those evacuees here in the parking lot of this Walmart. They tell me they have no idea whether or not their homes are still standing.
And you're here at Walmart getting supplies.
Just trying to make it through a very strange and stressful week. We're completely out of routine. My kids aren't in school. I'm not at work. I work at the County Office of Education, which is also threatened by the Atlas fire at this time. So just trying to keep some sense of normal routine for my kids and make it through to the next steps.
You're from the fire zone?
Yes, we live in Napa on the eastern side, southeastern side.
Tell me about the experience for you and your family.
My children and I live just down the road on Silverado Trail in Saskville, and we ended up evacuating later that Monday morning. We've been here at our friend's house since, just waiting for news about how the fire is spreading as the wind shifts. We're not quite sure what's going to happen next. So we're still under evacuation orders.
Do you have any sense of the status of your home?
Right now, we're looking at the maps on countyofnapa.org to see the updates.
If you want to stand right behind the camera, because I want to show you there are flames over my shoulder and off in the distance. Let's zoom in there. I'm going to just give me 1 second, and you see them right over some of these rooftops. Now, I am just off of Oakmont Drive, specifically on Woodley Place. It's the end of Woodley Place. There's a cul-de-sac, and you can see some of those flames up on the hillside. I can say this wind
Coverage continues. We want to check in now with Crown Force Philippe Jagal.
Yeah, people are eager to get information. He shares what he learned at a news conference held by the emergency officials in Napa County this morning.
State and local leaders here in Napa County say that the situation here on the ground is changing every minute, and that if an area has not been deemed safe, then people are simply not going to be allowed in. That simple. Power poles, power lines, and trees are still down, and county officials say they can't put a number on how many people have been evacuated or when those evacuees will be able to return to their homes, or in many sad cases, what's left of those homes. Right now, firefighters are fighting 4 fires in this county after the Nuns fire that had been raging in Sonoma County since Sunday crossed into Napa County overnight. Emergency officials say PG&E has some 200 additional crew members on their way to Napa County, which would bring that number to 800 total. Good news, though, is that so far electricity has been restored to all but 7,000 customers. That number had been in the tens of thousands. Here's Congressman Mike Thompson.
Life safety is the #1 issue.
Guys, standing in this haze all day, you can definitely smell the smoke. You can feel the smoke as you breathe it in. It's been pretty stunning. You know, anyone familiar with the Bay Bridge, with the San Francisco skyline, they know what it looks like. They know what it's supposed to look like, and you can be used to fog, but you're usually not used to this kind of smoky haze. I drove up earlier from the Central Valley, and I can tell you that we know the Bay Area has been affected. We know that high schools have been calling in, canceling outdoor sports activities, but you may not know, as I said, we were driving from Fresno, driving from the Bakersfield area, you could see the smoky haze in the Central Valley as it travels down through the mountains, down south. It was truly stunning, and it is not the San Francisco that certainly I have been accustomed to, and I'm sure that many
children grew up playing in the Delormier household.
They spent a lot of time at Grandma and Grandpa's. Used to swim in that pool a lot. It's a lot of memories.
The Atlas fire also destroyed Tracy's home. The playground and basketball court gone. A chimney left standing. Neighboring properties suffered the same fate. Now all Bonnie and her family have are memories without homes to return to.
We're homeless, and we have the clothes we wore out at the house, and my car, my husband's truck is in the driveway, melted practically. And that's it. You know, we have no clothes. I had 3 closets full of clothes. Now I have a pair of pajamas.
And let's get a gauge on what's going on weather-wise. Good morning, everybody. These are the current winds that we have still out of the north, as you can see in a lot of the reporting stations, although somewhat variable still at the surface. For example, San Francisco getting a little of that marine layer sneaking in, and Fairfield you can see directly from the north and the northwest. That fire danger, yes, red flag warning is with us. This going on until 5 still this evening as that dry air remains pretty much in place and continues. Our temperatures, interesting enough, well, the offshore wind you can see in the 50s, 48 for Napa. Not as cold as it was yesterday. As you can see the contrast from 24 hours ago, actually warmer. That's due to those offshore winds and winds which tend to circulate the atmosphere anyway. Tomorrow might revisit some of these winds. I'll be talking about this in the forecast as well. And by the weekend, a little bit of warming happening inland. We'll take a closer look at what the models have to say for the winds and the moisture levels in the atmosphere. Robin, how about a check on the traffic? Good morning.
Good morning. All right, let's go outside and take a look at 80. You're right into San Francisco. Very quiet for now. It's another spare the air day. So once again, you are encouraged to carpool to take advantage of mass transit because of the poor air quality. But no big hot spots right now. 80 is smooth into San Francisco. We'll take a look at other Bay Area bridges coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Tonight, Prawn 4 will air 3 hours of nonstop primetime news.
At 8, 9, and 10 p.m., bringing you the major news of the day in prime time.
KRON 4 News. 3 hours of primetime news tonight at 8 p.m.
We are back. Time now 4:15, and as we continue to follow the latest with the firestorm in the North Bay and all the evacuations and all the damage and the destruction, we want to touch base with some of the officials that are up there. In fact, joining us on the phone, we've got Scott Alonzo, a spokesperson with Sonoma County. Scott, first of all, thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You have probably the most number of fires burning right now within your county. A lot of folks desperately waking up this morning for new information on their communities, a lot of them in evacuation shelters this morning. What can you tell us? What's the state of affairs right now in Sonoma County?
Well, we've had some new mandatory evacuations that were issued last night in Geyserville, parts of Sonoma Valley. And so we are asking folks that if they have been given a mandatory evacuation order to leave as soon as possible and to depart. And they cannot return until that area has been cleared by law enforcement. It is not safe to return to an area that's been evacuated. So we are asking folks to stay safe and to leave if they're given that order to. The good news is on the Tubbs fire, which is the largest fire in the county, 10% of the fire is now contained, which is big progress, and our firefighters are doing an amazing job out there. But so far, 25,000 people have been evacuated in total since Sunday.
And are you sending those people south? Or what's the capacity of your shelters there in the area? Or are you telling them to go a little further to another county or another city?
Yeah, we have 24 shelters open throughout Sonoma County, ranging from Cloverdale all the way down to Petaluma and out to Sonoma. And we have nearly 3,800 people sheltering in place there, and we still have about 4,000 openings total. So there is still room in our shelters. They are open. We did some consolidation of shelters, but that was to provide enhanced services such as mental health services and more medical care for those who need it most. And so that's why we some of the smaller shelters did close down, but we still have a lot of capacity, nearly 4,000 seats still open.
And so we saw overnight some members of the military actually and some military assets become available. They landed on the peninsula and they've been heading your direction. Are you still getting the resources you need, or are you guys still putting the call out that you need more yet?
Well, the fire is still a threat in our county, as you mentioned earlier. I mean, there are multiple fires going on, so we still need resources. We have gotten them from the state and at the federal level, which has been fantastic, and other regional agencies as well. I mean, we have over 200 law enforcement officers from around the state in Sonoma County assisting us with search and rescue and keeping property safe and protecting folks. So we do have 600 missing person reports that have been filed, but the sheriff deputies have found 315 people. 285 are still outstanding.
All right, and before we let you go, Mr. Alonso, for those that are in shelters this morning, maybe those with family and friends right now who in some cases haven't gone to bed yet because they're looking for some sort of update on their homes, what's your message to them this morning?
I think it's to stay resilient and to be prepared if they do have to leave, but to please communicate with their loved ones if they do have to depart, but to do so safely. Our number one priority is life and safety. So our firefighters are doing an amazing job out there in the field. It's taking a large effort to fight these fires. There's currently 6 different fires burning in Sonoma County. But, we have a lot of help available. We have a lot of volunteers coming in. And if folks want to volunteer, they can call 707-573-3399.
707-573, say that number for me again,
3399.
3399, okay. All right, thank you so much for joining us, Scott, and maybe later on this morning we'll chat with you again as more information comes in, if that's all right. All right, so there's the update from Sonoma County, and again, that's just one of a handful of counties in the North Bay impacted by all these fires, and a lot of folks who had been watching on TV, other people being evacuated, now evacuated themselves.
And at least it's good to know that they're getting the help that they need. They have volunteers, they have food, they have clothes, and people around the Bay Area have been awesome with just reaching out and donating their time in so many items.
Napa County, let's talk about that for a little bit. A lot of folks in Napa County had to evacuate to places, including nearby American Canyon. There's a giant rescue shelter right now underway there at American Canyon High School.
Yes.
Crown Force's Zeke Medune, in fact, spoke with some of the evacuees there.
Some North Bay wildfire evacuees came here to American Canyon, which sits right on the border of Napa County. Now, I caught up with some of those evacuees here in the parking lot of this Walmart. They tell me they have no idea whether or not their homes are still standing.
And you're here at Walmart getting supplies.
Just trying to make it through a very strange and stressful week. We're completely out of routine. My kids aren't in school. I'm not at work. I work at the County Office of Education, which is also threatened by the Atlas fire at this time. So just trying to keep some sense of normal routine for my kids and make it through to the next steps.
You're from the fire zone?
Yes, we live in Napa on the eastern side, southeastern side.
Tell me about the experience for you and your family.
My children and I live just down the road on Silverado Trail in Sausco, and we ended up evacuating later that Monday morning. We've been here at our friend's house since, just waiting for news about how the fire is spreading as the wind shifts. We're not quite sure what's going to happen next, so we're still under evacuation orders.
Do you have any sense of the status of your home?
Right now, we're looking at the maps on countyofnapa.org to see the updates.
Not knowing whether her home is still standing is unfortunately more common than not at this point for evacuees, with these North Bay wildfires still raging out of control. In American Canyon, Zeke Medune, Crown 4 News.
Now, we mentioned that the fire threatening Sonoma, there are mandatory evacuations in eastern Sonoma Valley.
Yeah, there's an advisory right now, an evacuation order in North Sonoma and most of the Boys Hot Springs. That one is not mandatory. Again, that's just voluntary at this point. It means you have to be ready to leave, again, if it becomes necessary. And Crown 4's Dan Kerman has more on that part of the story.
Shortly before 8:30, fire crews and sheriff's deputies raced to eastern Sonoma Valley. The sheriff's office issued a mandatory evacuation order for Castle Road and 7th Street East, north of Lowell Valley Road.
Sheriff's office, evacuation advisory.
The sirens started about 4 in the afternoon near Sonoma Square. Dozens of sheriff's deputies crisscrossing the downtown from Sonoma Square north with a warning.
They just drove down the street and said that we should evacuate north of East Napa.
People didn't waste any time. They started packing up what was important.
a few clothes, a couple memorabilia, our animals, and my kids.
Bay Area police officers on foot also went door to door to make sure everyone was alerted.
Right now, my partner and I are walking down Spain Street here in Sonoma, knocking on doors, talking to community members, letting them know that the fire is headed this way.
Well, fires have been raging all over the Bay Area. Most thought, or at least hoped, Sonoma was out of harm's way.
Thought we were okay. We really thought that the hills were going to protect us, but these winds, I know they can come up at any time.
And as people evacuated in the distance, a bulldozer dug a containment line in hopes if the fire did come down the hill, it might stop before reaching people's homes.
I'm trying to remain calm. It's obviously very terrifying.
Tonight, On 4 will air 3 hours of non-stop primetime news.
At 8, 9, and 10 p.m., bringing you the major news of the day in prime time.
Cron 4 News, 3 hours of primetime news tonight at 8 p.m.
Welcome back to the Cron 4 Morning News. Let's grab a quick forecast here. What's going on? We've got winds that we talked about being offshore coming in from the north. They've blown smoke across the entire Bay Area. Unhealthy is the situation at best. Up in the North Bay, it is downright dangerous because of the particulates flowing in the air. Let's get an idea about those winds and those gusts happening today. Looks like it starts to settle down a little bit for tonight. It builds up a little bit, but it's really, watch Friday night. We're going to Repeat Solano County, Contra Costa County again. Wham, there we go. And this is again going to be banking off of a dry atmosphere. Speaking of which, let's check those relative humidity levels. For today, they're going to drop. Now, they do tend to drop during the day, but we have some very dry air upstairs. I've been looking at some of the numbers there, and they're almost as dry as the air in the Arctic. So it's very dry, and that's going to start mixing in with surface air during the day. Some of that marine layer tries to come back again as we get till Friday. But again, look at the whites coming back just a bit, showing the very dry air returning before the week's end. A quick forecast for the North Bay. Upper 70s along 101 expected, 79 Napa today, 78 Sonoma, Vallejo at 74 under sunny skies, sort of, but though hard to see. Robin, how's traffic holding together?
Well, it's looking pretty good so far, Dave, with no major issues on Bay Area bridges. We have a little bit of slow traffic here on 80 heading into San Francisco. The cash lanes are getting crowded on both sides, but a great ride across the upper deck. Here's 92. Traffic moving very well so far out of Hayward, heading west to the peninsula with no big trouble spots. It's 13 minutes to make your way from 880 out to 101. The time now is 4:27. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Telling people it was time to evacuate, giving them the idea that the fire from Boyas Hot Spring in one direction and also coming from the eastern side could be arriving here in downtown Sonoma in about 2 hours. That would be about now. At this point, we haven't seen much in the way of fire, but people took heed. They decided to take that time to pack up their animals and pack up their clothes and get on the road. We talked to some of them.
We were prepared the other day to get some stuff out, so we kind of had some things in order. But then when they came today, we decided we better get a few more things.
What's important?
Just, pictures and documents and papers and stuff from the house, and then just getting there, everything.
Did you think you would come to this here?
No, not here. I thought we were okay. We really thought that the hills were going to protect us, but these winds, I know they can come up at any time.
Sad? Stressed? What?
Stressed, yeah. Yeah, very stressed.
Now, in addition to the vehicles going door to door, we also saw police officers from various cities throughout the Bay Area also going from door to door, knocking on people's doors, everybody taking a certain street, telling them about this voluntary evacuation, in fact, a recommendation to get out of town. And then we looked up in the hillside and we saw a bulldozer cutting a dozer line. The idea being that if that fire comes over the hill into the front of these houses, they want to make sure that there is a line in place so it can be stopped. So basically, in a nutshell, that's where we stand right now. Downtown Sonoma, at least north of the square, the recommendation is for people to evacuate. Many of them have packed up their cars. Many of them have left, as you see. If you're heading like towards Nevada or some other areas, it's going to take you some extra time to get there because there are a lot of people on the road. There's also a lot of ash falling from the sky right now, a lot of thick smoke in the air. We'll see what happens in the next few hours. Live in downtown Sonoma, Dan Kerman, on 4 News.
Thought that they'd already harvested, but there were a couple of grapes that were still there, so you could see that some of the grapes had dried out, and in some cases there was just grapes that looked pretty normal, but the great leaves weren't burnt, which I noticed.
Stanley, that's what I was going to ask you. You know, as we all travel up in the North Bay, going through Napa and Sonoma, we love to see the stretches of land with all the vineyards. You checked some of the tasting rooms. Did you see many vineyards where there had been widespread destruction?
This is a serious, critical, catastrophic event.
And that pretty much sums it up. Our breaking news this morning continues to be the wildfires ravaging the North Bay, and they're getting worse this morning as fighters continue to struggle with containment. This is video from the Journey's End Mobile Home Park in Santa Rosa. That mobile home park and a number of other communities completely destroyed by the fire's advance.
Okay, so let's take a quick recap. Here is what we know right now about the fires burning in Napa and Sonoma counties. The death toll is now up to 23. At least 3,500 homes and businesses have been destroyed. More than 100,000 acres have burned. And as of right now, 285 people are still unaccounted for this morning.
Thank you for joining us on this Thursday morning. It's been a very stressful week for a lot of folks. I'm James Fletcher. We appreciate you being with us this morning.
And I'm Robin Winston.
All right, let's take a look at the city of Napa, one of the most recent areas that has seen, released at this point, a voluntary evacuation order go into place. The map on your screen shows you where that is. It's that area that you see the diagonal lines running through it. People there being told to be ready to evacuate at any moment. That area in red right next to it is the perimeter of the Atlas fire, and you can see the evacuation advisory extends south from Tronca Street down along Highway 12 and east all the way to the Solano County line. It includes Hagen Road, Vici Avenue, First Avenue, 3rd Avenue, Combsville Road, part of East Avenue, Terrace Drive, and Amola Avenue as well. And again, people in that area being told to be ready to evacuate at any moment. The fire is getting dangerously close. And here's a closer look at the voluntary evacuation order for the eastern part of Santa Rosa. And you can see that area in blue. That's new since yesterday. That area is under voluntary evacuation. And as you can see, it connects now those two areas in red where we have the mandatory evacuation. So the fire has shifted enough now that emergency personnel are concerned for the folks who live in that area in blue. They're telling you to be ready to go, again, at only a moment's notice.
And in Solano County, several neighborhoods are being told to get ready to evacuate. The area that you see in orange, that is a voluntary evacuation area. The area that's in yellow are advisories, which means that fire officials want you to be ready to go at any moment. So when they give the word, you can already be set up and prepared to go.
All right, let's get back out live in the field. We've got KRON 4's Will Tran among our team, our troop of reporters out there this morning across the Bay Area, across the North Bay. He's now in Napa, one of, again, those places that recently saw voluntary and mandatory evacuation orders go into place. So, Will, again, I believe you're on what, Highway 221 just south of the city?
Near Kaiser?
Yeah.
I'm on Highway 220 Kaiser Road. Kaiser Road is right in front of me, but more importantly, right behind me are the flames. It's moving along this hill, and it's moving southbound. Fortunately, at least for us, the winds are blowing away from us, but you can clearly make how bright it is and how intensely it's burning at this time. It moves along. I'm not exactly sure as far as the neighborhoods, if there are homes tucked away among those hills there, but You can see it right there, and it was visible from a few miles away. We were driving in darkness. We turned the corner, and all of a sudden, boom, it was right in front of our faces. We pulled over. We wanted to show you this shot. It's a little bit windy at times. I mean, the winds were the scary component in the overnight hours. It's a little bit windy at this time. Not too bad, though. But, of course, it's going to continue for most of the day, and they think that it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better as far as the fighting situation. Nothing but dry vegetation as far as I can possibly see as far as this hillside is concerned. Look at that. The flames are still burning, and it does not look like the firefighters are doing anything at this time, which is standard procedure. They do not fight fires when it's dark. They just don't want anybody hurt or even killed. Once the sun comes up, they will attack it, or in this case, if there are no homes in its imminent path, perhaps they will let it burn itself out if it possibly can. But I just wanted to give you a little taste of what's going on in Napa. This is obviously one of the many places very dangling precariously because of the fires. And once again, if you're just joining me, this is off of Highway 221. Plenty of stores across the street, and those stores right now, I can tell you, they're being patrolled by the sheriff's office. They're going around to make sure that those buildings are safe, just in case the winds change directions, pick up the embers and bring them over to a nearby strip mall about maybe 50 yards from where I'm located. James and Robin, back to you.
You know, Will, and again, Judge, looked it up on the map because you said you were concerned there might be some homes up there. It looks like the fire's burning, again, to your east. That's the Skyline Wilderness Park. It's a big open space with lots of trails. If there are any homes, they'll be few and far between. But the problem is that park runs all the way down into downtown Napa on Amola Avenue to your north. So if that continues to burn, it may work its way into the more populated areas with residential business districts like you were talking about. You say the smoke's blowing at least away from you for now. That's good news, at least for the moment.
Yes, the smoke is blowing away from us, and that was great insight by you to pull up the map and find out if there were homes in that area. I mean, obviously, we were driving northbound to get to this place, and I didn't see the flames in American Canyon or Fairfield, but of course, that's always a concern. It's a vineyard area, and for those who might not know this area well, Bottle Rock is not close to here, but it's near this location if you continue driving, just to give you maybe the lay of the land. So that's just want to show you exactly what was going on. I'm glad to hear from you that there are not a lot of homes, but it's slowly but surely marching in that direction where there are homes and buildings, and that's why they are very fearful of what's going on. Again, I don't see any firefighters along the hillside here. It looks like, James, it's dying down just a bit or getting a little bit deeper into the canyon, right? I mean, in the course of my live shot, those flames are not as high. It look like they have sunken down a little bit to the ground, but it is going unobstructed at this point.
Will, do you know what closures they have in place as of right now? Since, you're a part of CRON 4, you have special access to that portion of 221, but do you know if they have any special traffic alerts for 221 or what's blocked off? Because you can't drive through that area right now, right?
No, that's a great question. No, 221 is open to the public. We'll move our camera over here, and you could see some taillights off onto the right side of your screen. So in both directions, we didn't have to cross any checkpoint lines. I see another couple of cars going by. Just to show you, it is open in both directions on 221, and then you hop on to 37. So right now, not a problem. And right in front of us, that intersection, that is Kaiser Road. That is still available to you. So right now, if you need to get around, yes, this is an option. I cannot tell you if it's going to be an option half an hour from now. We have our engines running just in case the fires move in our direction. We can throw our equipment and take off from the scene as well. But that's a wonderful question, Robin. No road closures, no checkpoints to talk about, at least for now.
All right, thank you very much. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, that fire is right behind Will. So as he said, I won't be surprised if they close it down soon, or at least within the next 24 to 48 hours.
And it won't take much. I mean, all it takes is a shift in the wind.
Yes.
And those flames will start coming up quick. So speaking of which, we're going to get with Dave Spar in the Weather Center here in just a little bit, talk more about those winds, where they're blowing this morning, and what direction now is the dangerous direction for folks that might be in the path of this fire. But we'll be right back with that in a minute.
His uncle does not speak English, has no cell phone, and no other family in the area, yet somehow they are confident that he got out somehow, perhaps escaping on a bicycle that he loved to ride.
He's probably somewhere, I don't know, with his roommate. We're hoping for he's with his roommate, but
you're pretty worried.
We are worried. So many days, it's been what, like 3 or 4 days already, and no call, no heard of him. So.
And we've been like searching for him and like we've been calling people, like hotels, if they know anything and have seen him, like around the hotel, but nothing, we haven't seen anything about him.
And the search goes on. Pacheco's family says that he also had a brand new roommate, but they don't have any confirmation for him either, and they have had no contact whatsoever. So they are desperately asking anyone who may have seen or knows the whereabouts of Diego Pacheco to please get in touch with authorities. Live in Santa Rosa, Rob Flatterbo, KRON 4 News.
Rob, thank you for that. And we have also learned that a wheelchair-bound woman who was missing after her home was destroyed in the Tubbs fire has been found dead. That is according to members of her family. A fire inspector told the family members that Christina Hansen was in the home but did not make it out. Hansen's father is in the hospital tonight with third-degree burns.
So you're looking at what the images of the Golden Gate Bridge from the Sutro Tower, that's what people are experiencing all around the bay, and the smoke is all coming.
Now, I caught up with some of those evacuees here in the parking lot of this Walmart. They tell me they have no idea whether or not their homes are still standing.
And you're here at Walmart getting supplies.
Just trying to make it through a very strange and stressful week. We're completely out of routine. My kids aren't in school. I'm not at work. I work at the County Office of Education, which is also threatened by the Atlas fire at this time. So just trying to keep some sense of normal routine for my kids and make it through to the next steps.
You're from the fire zone?
Yes, we live in Napa on the eastern side, southeastern side.
Tell me about the experience for you and your family.
My children and I live just down the road on Silverado Trail in Sausco, and we ended up evacuating later that Monday morning. We've been here at our friend's house since, just waiting for news about how the fire is spreading as the wind shifts.
Welcome back to the KRON 4 Morning News, and here's a look at our current wind situation here. We've been talking about them being offshore, and in this case, they've been largely coming in from the north. Now, we should mention this, too, that they're coming from the north from a synoptical sense. That means in a general sense, they come from the north, but locally in your neighborhood, because the wind at the surface can bang into canyons and through valleys and through hills, that can actually channel the winds into odd directions. So don't think because they're coming from the north that you may not get winds locally coming in from the south. But the general pattern has been bringing it in that direction, and that's been causing this problem of keeping the air dry and actually warms up the air, too. Temperatures overnight in the North Bay have been very, very mild because of it, too. Very unhealthy air in the North Bay. Unhealthy air elsewhere happening all over the bay as this smoke gets sent to the south from the winds basically blowing from the north. Red flag warning is with us until 5, not just because of the winds. Very dry conditions. We've been talking about humidity levels maybe dropping below. In some cases in Solano County, I've been noticing particularly below 10% this afternoon. We have some very dry air aloft. It's going to start to mix with air at the surface. It's almost as dry as the Arctic, and that'll start to fall to the surface through the day. Take a look at these temperatures up here in the North Bay, 50s and 40s. We saw some upper 30s yesterday morning, and that temperature change contrast, it's almost a half a dozen degrees ahead of the progress it was this time yesterday. Here's the next 8 hours lined up for you at 50 about 8 a.m. by 12 at 67. You can see much cooler day today all over the bay. We'll be following the winds and give you some of the projections as well as those humidity levels. Right now, let's go check the area roads. Robin, good morning. What's happening?
Good morning. No major problems on Bay Area freeways. 80 looks good into San Francisco here westbound. We just have some slow traffic in the cash lanes. And I just want to quickly mention that CHP is asking big rigs to stay away from 80 through Fairfield because of the fire, because of the evacuations and poor air quality. They're asking big rig drivers to stay off of 80 through Fairfield and the Vacaville area. But right now, 80 into San Francisco looks really good. 8 minutes from the maze over to the